33 million square kilometers, twice the size of the Roman Empire, 4 times the size of the United States, stretching from the Korean peninsula in the east to the gates of Vienna in the west, from the frozen forests of Siberia to the shores of the Persian Gulf. The Mongol Empire was the largest contiguous land empire in all of recorded human history. One man built the foundations of it. He started with a horse, a bow, and a childhood of absolute poverty on the Mongolian steppe. His name was Temujin. He was born around 1162 CE into the Borjigin clan, one of the smallest, least powerful tribes on a steppe that had hundreds of them. When he was 9 years old, his father was poisoned by a rival tribe. His own clan, the people his family had led, abandoned them. His mother raised him and his siblings alone, surviving on roots, wild berries, and whatever they could catch. He was kidnapped by rivals and held in a wooden collar as a slave. He escaped. His wife Berta was captured by another tribe. He got her back. Every time the steppe knocked him down, he came back with more allies, more cunning, and a longer memory. The steppe taught Temujin one lesson above everything else. Loyalty was the only real currency, and the most dangerous thing in the world was not an enemy. It was a friend who had stopped being useful. He spent 30 years learning that lesson, and then he spent the rest of his life applying it. In 1206, Temujin called a great assembly, the Kurultai, of every Mongol tribe. What he had achieved in the years before was almost incomprehensible. Through 2 decades of warfare, strategic marriage, and merciless elimination of rivals, he had done what no one in the history of the steppe had managed: united every major Mongolian tribe under a single banner. The Mongol offer to every city in their path was consistent and simple: surrender now, pay tribute, and you will be taxed but left intact. Resist, and everything you have built will cease to exist. Most cities surrendered. Some did not. The cities of Central Asia that chose resistance, Samarkand, Urgench, Merv, were dismantled with systematic thoroughness. Merv, which had been one of the largest cities on Earth, was reduced to rubble in a matter of days. Historians estimate that the Mongol campaigns across Central Asia, China, and Persia killed somewhere between 30 and 40 million people, a significant fraction of the world's entire population at the time. Some regions did not recover their pre-Mongol population levels for centuries. In 1258, the Mongols took Baghdad, the seat of the Abbasid Caliphate, the intellectual center of the Islamic world, for 500 years. The caliph was wrapped in a carpet and trampled by horses. The Great Library, the House of Wisdom, containing centuries of accumulated knowledge, was burned. The canals of Mesopotamia, built over thousands of years, were systematically destroyed. The historian Ibn Battuta visited Baghdad decades later. He said the ruins still smelled of death. Here is the part of Mongol history that most accounts leave out. The same empire that destroyed Baghdad created, for roughly 100 years, the safest long-distance trade corridor the ancient world had ever seen. Under what historians call the Pax Mongolica, the Mongol Peace, a merchant could travel from the coast of China to the markets of Constantinople under Mongol protection, with a guaranteed safe passage along the entire route. The Silk Road, which had always been dangerous and fragmented, became a single, administered highway. Trade exploded, technologies moved. Paper money, a Chinese invention, reached the Islamic world. Chinese porcelain reached Europe. Mathematical concepts, astronomical knowledge, agricultural techniques transferred across an entire continent in a generation. Kublai Khan's court at Khanbalik, the city we now call Beijing, was the most cosmopolitan place on Earth. A Venetian merchant named Marco Polo spent 17 years there. When he returned to Europe and described what he had seen, the scale, the wealth, the sophistication, almost no one believed him. The world he described wasn't fantasy. It was simply further ahead than Europe was ready to imagine. The Mongol Empire had a fatal structural flaw that Genghis Khan himself had built into it. Mongol tradition required that an empire be divided among a ruler's sons at his death. What one genius had unified was split by inheritance. Within a generation of Genghis Khan's death in 1227, the empire had fractured into four competing khanates: the Yuan in China, the Il Khanate in Persia, the Chagatai Khanate in Central Asia, and the Golden Horde in Russia. And then they fought each other. The same military machine that had conquered the world turned on itself. The Pax Mongolica, that extraordinary century of connected trade and safe passage, collapsed under the weight of Mongol civil war, and the trade routes, as they fell apart, carried something the Mongols had not intended: the Black Death. Bubonic plague, originating in Central Asia, traveled westward along the very Silk Road the Mongols had built and maintained. Between 1347 and 1351, it killed an estimated 1/3 of Europe's entire population. The Pax Mongolica had connected the world, and in connecting the world, it had created the conditions for the worst pandemic in human history. The Mongol Empire as a political entity was finished by the early 1300s, but the world it had made could not be unmade. The modern borders of Russia, China, Iran, Korea, and a dozen Central Asian nations were all directly shaped by Mongol conquest and Mongol administration. The very concept of a unified China, the idea that all of China should be one country under one government, was in significant part a Mongol political creation. Genetic research suggests that Genghis Khan has an estimated 16 million living male line descendants today. Roughly 0.5% of every man alive on Earth carries his DNA, the most of any single individual in recorded history. His tomb has never been found. Before he died in 1227, he ordered it kept secret. The slaves who built it were killed. The soldiers who killed the slaves were killed. Horses were ridden over the earth to erase any trace. Archaeologists are still searching. The man who built the largest empire in human history left no grave, no monument, no marker of any kind, only a world he had completely remade. That's the full story of the largest empire ever built, from a 9-year-old abandoned on the steppe to 33 million square kilometers under one flag. Subscribe for a new episode every week.